It is about to be tough times for us Zenless Zone Zero players because not only are we dealing with a recession in our real lives, we're also going to deal with a major recession on our Zenless Zone Zero accounts as they get higher and higher. And just like I only eat SpaghettiOs for dinner every night so that I can afford my water bill in real life, I also make sure to do the same thing in Zenless Zone Zero with the characters that I invest in. If you are a free-to-play or a low spender, or just someone who wants to ensure that you're getting the most value out of all of your resources in the game, I have a list here of the characters you should look at if you want to make sure you're only investing in characters that are going to have value right now and for the foreseeable future. All right, let's start it off with my girl Lucy over here, who is arguably the best on this list. I'm starting it off strong. She's a fire support character, and I think she's going to have the most staying power out of maybe the whole roster in 1.0. And let me show you why. If we go to her skills, her core skill here is going to summon 3 guard boars whenever she uses her special attack. And these guard boars are going to hang around and do physical damage to enemies even when Lucy leaves the field. So she's going to do a lot of off-field damage. And also they're going to give the whole team this buff called Cheer On, which sounds kind of lame, but let me show you what it is. So here is the Cheer On effect down here. It is going to increase the attack of all allies by 13% of Lucy's attack plus 44, and this is going to keep going up and will scale as you keep building Lucy's attack. It's going to last for 15 seconds when you hold down the skill. Super broken, right? This is almost never going to lose value. But wait, it gets even better when we look at this character's cinema levels. This is going to make her absolutely broken. And I know this isn't very relatable in 1.0 when it's hard to get any copies of her, but if we're talking about how this character is going to scale into the game and making good investments early on, this is probably the best one you can make, because if we look at her C2, it starts here. This is just going to be a good quality of life feature to make sure that you always have Cheer on your whole party. It'll give it to them when you do a chain attack or ultimate, and also your skill, right? So super good quality of life. Then if we look at the C4, this is where it gets a little spicy, okay? The Cheer On effect is also going to give allies crit damage by 10%. Huge. It was already good enough, but adding the crit damage is amazing. Then, if we want to keep going here, C6 is where she just becomes unstoppable. This is going to make it so that your guard boars will do more off-field damage, more off-field fire damage is the important part, by 300%. Not a bad multiplier, especially since we're stacking attack on her whenever like an ally does an EX special attack. So what I'm picturing here is that almost makes her like Zhongling in Genshin Impact, if you're familiar with that, except if Zhongling also gave you an attack buff, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. She's going to be doing so much off-field burn and fire damage, and it's just going to scale so well into disorder teams, into mono fire teams, whatever you want to put her in. She's going to be awesome. Definitely recommend building this character and going for constellations for her if you can. Next up, we have good old Anby Damara here, one of the starting 3 that you'll get, so super free to play friendly. And the reason I'm suggesting you level her right now is that we don't have a lot of stun characters in the game currently. Unless you're lucky enough to get Kaleda or Lycon, you are pretty dry on stun characters. I think they're the only 3, right? So you really need stun in this game. It's probably the most important mechanic that you can be thinking about when it comes to bosses especially. So I would definitely invest in Anby as soon as possible. She's not the greatest stun, of course, in the game. Of course, the others are S ranks and she's the only A rank, so it's kind of a given. But she's not bad, right? And she's going to have the impact damage to down bosses, and she'll get the job done if you don't have any other stun characters. If we look at her cinema levels, none of them are super great. I think that this one is going to make her a mainstay of any mono electro team in the future, because it's going to help any electric agents recover energy even when they're off field. So as long as there's not another electric stun, Anby is still going to have value in those types of teams. And there's also a good amount of free-to-play friendly electro teams you can make right now, which I'll talk about more in a minute. As I said, stun characters are very important in this game right now when we don't have a lot of disorder teams. You basically need a stunner in your team if you're trying to tackle some of these harder bosses. So if you weren't lucky enough to get one of the S rank stunners, you need to invest in Anby right now. Obviously, she's not going to have the staying power of someone like Lucy, but if you look at her cinemas, she will be okay in some niche teams down the line. But as of right now, I would definitely recommend you invest in Anby if you don't have a stunner already. Earlier, I mentioned a mono electric team, and whether you're a premium player or a free-to-play player, you're gonna need Mr. Anton here, which is nice because he's an A rank character and he's also rated up on Ellen's banner. So there's a good chance you might have him. And if you do, and you don't have another great main DPS, I would definitely recommend investing in him right away. The reason I say that is that out of all of the A ranks in the game in 1.0, Anton probably has the best damage multipliers of all of them. His kit is pretty straightforward. It's basically just all like do damage, do damage, do damage, right? So super easy to play. He's got good single target, good AoE, very easy to invest in. And the biggest thing that he has going for him right now is that he's the electric element. And in 1.0, we have a ton of electric characters that you can pair with him. Compare with Anby, who I talked about earlier. If you were lucky enough to get Grace, they're a great pair. You can pair him with Rena, who is also another electric support. And he's also got the Bellabog Industries faction, so you can also pair him with all of those guys as well. Really good team options for Anton. Now, if we're talking about scalability and how he's going to look a year from now, honestly, he's probably the worst on this list. He does have this C4 where he's going to give all of your squad members 10% crit rate, but I mean, it's not super reliable. It's like, do you really want to put Anton on your team when you're not going to have him on field just for this crit rate increase when there's so many other characters that could help you in that department? So not super worth it, and he's not going to scale super well a year from now. But if he is the only main DPS that you have in your roster, or you're trying to pick between him and like Billy and Corin, I would definitely invest in Anton. He is the best A rank DPS that we have in the game right now, so give him a shot. This next one you might have seen coming, especially if you are an Ellen enjoyer, because she works so well on that team, but I'm here to argue that she is still going to have value even past that team when that's not the meta anymore, and that is Soukaku here. And let me show you why. The main reason is her core skill, which is going to let her pass on attack to the next character, an attack buff, and this can stack up to a max of 1000. So assumedly, as long as you max her out, when you start getting those end game disc drives on her, you're going to be able to pass 1000 attack to your next character. This isn't a group wide buff. It is a little more precise to play with. You have to make sure that you're going right from her to your main carry, but you're going to be able to pass 1000 attack to them, which is huge. I picture she's kind of like the new Bennett of this game, where she's going to have huge staying power even maybe 4 years from now. And in addition to this, she's even better on ice teams, because when she's paired with an ice character, she's going to increase the ice damage of the squad by 20% when she does that whole attack buff thing. So great buffer, and in addition to this, she just does great damage by herself. You might have seen this in your Ellen teams, but she often competes for like the rating at the end because she just does so much burst when she's on the field. She does have some pretty good cinema levels as well. For example, the C1 is a quality of life thing that extends the buff duration, and then C4 is pretty big too. It'll decrease the enemy's ice resistance, which is going to make her even more broken for ice teams. But even without all of these, just on paper, she's already good with just one copy. And I don't think that she's going to get power creep for a very long time, unless there's some S rank that lets you pass on like 2000 attack, right? But even then, you're going to need 2 teams for the end game stuff, so she's going to hold her value for a long time. I'd say if you want to invest in 2 supports that are going to last you forever, look at Lucy and look at Soukaku. Last but not least, we have our main mascot over here, the one and only Nicole Damara, who everyone has a copy of, right? Because she's one of the starter characters, and she's also a great support for pretty much any team, if you ask me, and the premier support for a mono ether team, which isn't possible right now because she's the only ether character. But if you're planning to pull for Zhu Yuan in the latter half of 1.0, you need to level up Nicole. But she's a great support for any team, like I said, and that's mainly because of her core passive, which is going to reduce the defense of any enemy she hits by 20%, and this just keeps going up as you level her up. So that's huge for any team, right? In addition to this, she has this really cool ability where whenever she does a quick like a chain attack or her EX special attack, she's going to create an energy field that pulls enemies in. Think like a Venti ult or a Kazuha E that is going to suck them in. Great CC to have, pretty much one of the only CC characters in the game right now, on top of that defense shred. Then if you run her with another ether character, she's going to increase all squad members ether damage by 25%. So like I said, absolutely paramount for those mono ether teams. So she is gonna just keep scaling as we get more ether characters, and her cinema levels are just gonna add on to that. Let's see, her C4 is great. It increases the length of that field, so it's going to be sucking in even more enemies, right? Big suck. And then we have our C6, which is crazy, right? It just increases her capability as a support because it's going to add a stacking crit rate buff to your whole squad, right? And this can go up to 15% crit rate, which is huge. It's so hard to get crit rate in this game. So she's already a great support, and then add this on top at her C6. She's going to have great value until, you know, similar situation to those last two, that until like another ether support comes out that's S rank, she's going to be pretty much mandatory in all of your ether parties, and a great support for just general teams as well. So as you can see, even if you are a free-to-play player, there's some pretty quality units in 1.0 to invest in that are going to last on your account for a long time. It's very similar to Genshin, where there's these select few 4 stars that are going to last till the end of time. I think that we found those. I genuinely believe that like Soukaku, Nicole, and Lucy in particular are going to last a long time, and those other two that I talked about are also good investments to make right now. But if you have any more suggestions on maybe like Corrin is secretly broken and I just haven't unlocked her potential, please let me know down in the comments. I'd appreciate your opinion. Thank you so much for watching the video this far. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe. I'll be coming out with Z videos all week, so stay tuned for more. I am out for now though. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.